Hi there, welcome to Tarot Soap Opera. Today I'm going to do a reading for Pisces energy. And like usual, we're going to do two rows. The top row I refer to as high vibe Pisces energy. The bottom row, a more worldly, shadowy Pisces energy. Because we have free will, and in our high vibe nature, we might want to move forward, having a little more hope and faith and belief in ourselves and in others and in love. But in our more worldly nature, we can have our fear and our insecurities and our self-limiting beliefs, and the bottom row can also just kind of represent our comfort zone. And we'd kind of like to keep doing things the way we've been doing it and just maybe have it work out a little differently. But, if it's not working out the way we'd like, then, people have to do this debate within themselves about overcoming. The bottom row can be things that manipulate us. In order to free ourselves from it, to move forward in life a little differently. So, Pisces energy is emotional water sign energy. It is, I believe, the emotional water sign energy that we tap into to help us transition out of things. So, in that regard, we can all tap into Pisces energy. I think Cancer helps us get into things, tapping into Cancer, emotional water sign energy. Scorpio is kind of what we tap into when we're in the midst of something. And Pisces helps us connect in with our intuition and our more hopeful, believing nature to listen to our intuition when it's time to move forward in life and leave behind an old way of living life or viewing life, or work through our fears and insecurities and things like that. And then we deal with all these other people in the world that are where they're at. And sometimes we're on the same page at the same time, and sometimes we're not. And then that's an issue to be dealt with. So let's go look at the bottom row first. At the bottom row, we have the Eight of Swords. In the top row, we have the Knight of Wands. And the Knight of Wands I view as Sagittarius energy, which is kind of our fire sign energy that we tap into to help us move forward in life a little different, make peace with issues from the past so that we can move forward. But for a long time, in our Eight of Swords energy, which is our Gemini energy about our dualistic nature, for one, in order to complete a cycle, we'd need the Ten of Swords. So it's those last two swords about what we think is just and fair, because the Two of Swords is Libra energy. It's like, I don't know, should I keep doing what I'm doing? This kind of seems just and fair, doesn't it? Will it become more just and fair? Maybe it's not just and fair. If I have hope and faith and belief and love in my Gemini energy, am I dealing with other people who have hope and faith and belief and love? Or do they like to live more from their mind than their heart? And so some people right now are still debating within themselves, and are they willing to listen to their intuition? I think our intuition was given to us as a gift to help us navigate in this world. Because sometimes we can have people in our life and things in our life that it seems just and fair, but our intuition is telling us maybe that there's kind of something shadowy about it. And it could just be that I could keep doing what I'm doing, but it might be just because of my fear and being up in my head about moving forward in life differently. Up here we have the Eight of Cups, that I'd have to kind of walk away from things I had emotionally invested in that at one time I might have thought was more just and fair and aligned with my truth. But maybe as time's gone by, I kind of could feel confused emotionally and a little bit up in my head about, is this my truth? And we come in contact with all these different people to help us get more clear about our truth. And then is our truth the same? And is what we're motivated and inspired by the same? High vibe energy is about being more independent independent of our fear, our insecurity, our pride, our ego, our immature nature, our lust, our greed, our lazy nature, our more codependent nature. To some degree, we could have all been in that. But are we in relationships with people who kind of want to keep staying in it? And you have to be in your fire sign energy of the Knight of Wands. You have to be inspired to even work through your fears and insecurities or your self limiting beliefs to be more independent of those things that manipulate you. And some people might not be ready yet. So let's go look at the bottom row. We start out with 2 cards not showing themselves, and that can be that sometimes we get into situations, and we also have some cards up here in the top row that aren't showing themselves. And we can get in relationships with people, and there could be a lot of things that we like. There could be a lot of things that we enjoy doing, certain habits, hobbies, entertainment things. Fire sign energy, we could just be attracted to people. From our mind, in Gemini being air sign energy, a lot of it seems logical and practical, and maybe in a lot of ways we think it's just and fair. But with some people in our life, what we might not, because maybe we weren't listening to our intuition, we could have gotten in relationships with some people that we didn't realize that they could still have some issues that manipulate them that maybe don't manipulate us as much anymore, because we start out in the top row with the Tower in reverse. Like, I've worked through some things which could just be living more from my mind than my heart, and maybe I am a more creative, inspired, hopeful, believing person. And we can get in relationships with people, but because we could like them, because we're attracted to them, sometimes we don't want to see the truth, is what the bottom row can represent, where we want to kind of stay in denial of the truth and hope for the best. But sometimes we do get in relationships with people who are kind of hiding that they do harness these energies in a more shadowy way. What are they? The King of Cups and the World card. So some people made a decision in their Gemini free will nature of self, regardless of what zodiac sun sign they are. We've all got free will. And some people decided, I'm not doing love. I view the King of Cups as Cancer energy. Maybe I want to not really have to grow up and mature myself more emotionally. And maybe because the Knight of Wands is also why the reason for the top row came out, which can be that we got in relationships with people and we kind of harness our Sagittarius energy differently, and kind of what we're motivated and inspired by. And some people could have decided, I'm not as much motivated and inspired to align with my more hopeful, believing, loving nature. I might like to live more from my mind than my heart, and it makes me feel safe and secure. And Sagittarius is also about higher learning and education, and the World card talks about learning lessons and closing out old chapters in your life, and some people are like, I don't know that I want to do that. I could think that I can just keep moving forward the way I've been living life. I maybe really don't have to align with letting my more loving, intuitive, creative, inspired nature kind of be in the driver's seat of my life. I might let my more worldly nature, because the bottom row can represent our more worldly, egoic nature. I think I know best. I'm smart. Maybe in the living more from my mind than my heart. And shadowy energy can be where I think I can present myself as like a high vibe person, motivated and inspired by love, being just and fair, growing up, maturing myself, tempering my ego, but that really might not be the truth. And, anybody can present themselves in the world any way they want. I'm stable, I'm grounded, I'm just, I'm fair, I'm loving, I'm nurturing, I'm more hopeful and believing or stable and grounded than I really am, right? And sometimes we didn't listen to our intuition about some people. Our intuition might have been telling us, I don't think this person's really motivated and inspired by love. And people who harness a shadowy Cancer energy, regardless of what zodiac sign, sun sign they are, they could use their emotions more manipulatively, their words more manipulatively, their intellect, their status, their image, their passionate nature, their sexuality, their, they can use all those things, all those gifts that they've been given. They could use them all in a more shadowy way. But we maybe didn't want to see the truth of it. So, or they just wore a very good false mask, and they could have presented themselves in a way that seemed like they were more independent, more authentic or something, right? And those people in the Ten of Swords, we have the Ten of Swords, the Three of Swords, the Ace of Pentacles, the Ace of Swords, the Emperor, and the Five of Pentacles. Which the most important card here I view as being the Five of Pentacles, because the Five of Pentacles represents Taurus energy, which can be our philosophy of life. And in the Five of Pentacles, it can talk about how we want to keep moving forward in life. And some people's philosophy of life is, I made the free will choice to maybe be fearful of love. I get hurt doing love. I want to live more from my mind than my heart. That's how I want to keep moving forward. And so they detach, because the tens can mean also about ending something. I had the opportunity and the free will to align with my more loving nature and be willing to learn lessons in life, to work through my fears or my insecurities or my defensive nature or my immature nature or my more self-centered nature, whatever it could be. And I decided, nope, I'm not going to do that. In the Three of Swords, which is Libra energy, I have decided I think it's just and fair for me to keep investing in the Ace of Pentacles and the Ace of Swords. I think I'm going to invest in this idea. And that can be in the Emperor that, maybe it's more about me, or I think I can control things. I think I'm bright, I'm smart, I might have a certain status or image in the world. I'm not going to do love. I get hurt doing love. I maybe like it to be more about me. I might like it in a more shadowy Taurus energy to make my life more about these things of the world. More about things I indulge in, or my status or my ego or my image. And I think that'll work out okay. And maybe because they think there's other people in the world too who, like them, are fearful of love, fearful of being hurt. Also could be more, we'd look at the Knight of Wands and shadows being kind of immature. Lack some hope and faith and belief in themselves that maybe they can manifest their dreams into reality. Or maybe more codependent, more willing to get in a relationship and stay in a relationship more out of fear and insecurity or codependency or the image or the status or the money. And so that is how some people live their life. That's their truth, and that's how they want to live their life. And even though there could be a part of them in the Three of Swords that's sad, because they did have the free will to align with their more hopeful, believing, loving nature. And then there's probably people in their world that they could have aligned with that kind of represent and harness those traits and characteristics. But they could have decided, nope, I'm not going to do that. I'm more invested in this idea of either being more about myself more about the world. I might want a certain status or image. If I get in a certain career field that I love, I don't know if I'll have those things of the world that I would want. If I stay in a certain relationship where it's more about having hope and faith and belief in myself, and maybe I'd have to be more creative, inspired, and have more hope and faith and belief in myself than I do, and I don't. The Five of Pentacles can kind of be a lack mentality. No, I got to work with these things of the world. And these things of the world are more what I'm motivated and inspired by. And I think there's other people who think like me. And I think those people would be willing to move forward with me in a relationship and stay in a relationship and be more inspired by me or these things of the world or the status or the image or these things I indulge in to make myself feel better instead of love. And if they have someone who they think is willing to be that type of person, who also might reject their more hopeful, believing, loving nature, they could be thinking right now of moving forward with those type of people. In the past, they might have invested in people thinking those people think like I do. Those people will stay in a relationship, get in a relationship with me, stay in a relationship with me, and keep moving forward with me in a relationship because, like them, they might have fear of in high vibe Pisces and Sagittarius and Virgo and Aquarius and Scorpio having more hope and faith and belief in themselves and belief in their dreams that, let's move forward in a relationship and do life, making our life more about these things. And they've had some people in their life that could have gotten in relationships with them, or if they're an employer, worked at that job. But for some of those people, as they went through this phase of life, they could have kind of gotten inspired to work through some of their fears and insecurities. Why do I think the way I think? Why am I not more independent? Why do I not believe in myself? Why am I not more hopeful and believing? And so some of those people could have decided to work through some of their pain and heartbreak and self-limiting beliefs and things like that. And then those people kind of invested in, we can be caught up in our fears and our insecurities and seeing how those things manipulate us, our past pain and heartbreak. And it's like, I don't like those things manipulating me. And so some of the people that they've been in relationship with, those people were inspired to work through those issues. And they did work through those issues. And they kind of got to the truth of how just coming to maybe a place of peace about some of those issues in their life that really had kind of manipulated them. Again, people who could have been hurtful and unkind, people who weren't very loving, people who maybe weren't that just and fair, people who were more bossy and controlling, people who themselves were caught up in whatever they were caught up in and what they made more important in their life or living more from their mind than their heart. And they just kind of saw through it all where it's like, I'm not going to take it personally anymore and be in my ego about it. Everybody have all these lessons in Sagittarius energy. I have all these lessons to learn in life, and it's not all about me, and it's not, I can't control other people. Everybody has their own free will to be the type of person they choose to be. And if I'm willing to see the truth of it, am I going to let people from my past who might have been in some more shadowy energy of some sort keep stopping me and kind of keeping me in a mental prison about kind of loving and believing in myself and believing in my dreams? And some of the people that some more shadowy people have been in a relationship with, they kind of work through those issues to be inspired. The Emperor, like the Knight of Wands is fire sign energy. You know, I'm inspired not to keep letting those things manipulate me. And I'm going to, because I kind of did this work within myself to work through those things, I'm kind of ready in high vibe Taurus energy to kind of move forward in life differently. I worked through those things that had me up in a mental prison. I'm now kind of just seeing the truth of it, that I can only take responsibility for my actions and where I needed to heal and grow and mature myself, and where I could have been more immature and up in my head and not loving and not just and not fair and all my fears and insecurities. But everybody else has to be accountable for theirs also. And the only person I can change is me. And I see the truth that in the high vibe Emperor energy, the fives talk about change. I'm the only one, just like everyone else, has the free will to work through those issues that used to limit me, restrict me, oppress me, hurt me, made me not love and believe in myself, kept me in my more immature nature, fearful nature, self-indulgent nature. I can change. I might not be able to change other people, and other people have their free will, and I accept the truth of that. And they have the free will to be a more just, fair, loving, hopeful, believing person, act with character and integrity, or they had the free will to live their life the way they wanted. And I'm not going to let it stop me from believing in myself, loving myself, and I'm going to detach from some of these things that used to manipulate me. And I'm ready to align with Gemini being our dualistic nature. I'm ready to get out of aligning with my more shadowy or defensive nature or whatever, to align with my being inspired by having more hope and faith and belief in myself and belief in my dreams of what could be, instead of maybe more focused on what has been. And I'm going to learn the lessons I was meant to learn from those life experiences. I've dealt with all these different people in my life, and some people had good traits and qualities and characteristics, some people didn't. I have the free will to choose who I invest my time, energy, and effort in, and who I keep moving forward with, and who I move away from. And I'm going to take those lessons that I've learned, and I'm going to start incorporating that into how I make decisions moving forward. Because Taurus energy talks is about kind of like the rules and regulations. It's kind of like our dualistic nature battles, but it's our Taurus energy that is like the Supreme Court in our own head. And as an emperor of our own life, we can choose to deal with the truth, deal with these issues, and move forward in life, kind of growing to our full potential, learning lessons in life. Or we can say, nope, I don't want to do that. That's too scary. Or I just don't want to align with my more hopeful, believing, loving nature. I'm going to keep doing this, and I'm going to keep moving forward like this. And I'm going to think that the way to put an end to my past pain and heartbreak is either with this idea that from now on I'm going to make it just more about me. I'm going to try to control people or make it more just about me, or I'm going to make it more about these things of the world. And maybe if I have certain status or image or power, or I look a certain way, or I have a certain social status or social clout, maybe there'll be other people who value those things and will be in a relationship with me because of those things, because of their own fear of working through their issues, or more caught up in these things of the world. And if that's my truth and that's what I've decided, I kind of want to be in relationships with people who make their life about that. And so the people who have decided to, nope, I don't want to step out of my comfort zone. I don't want to work through my fears and insecurities. I might not want to be more just and fair. I might like it to be more about me, or I don't want to see the truth and listen to my intuition. I want to make my life more about these things of the world. They could have let go of some people in their life who offered them love and encouragement to work through those issues. And sometimes we can be in relationships with people for a long time, being loving and encouraging and supportive and wanting things to work out, not wanting to detach from them, not wanting to depart from them. But eventually, the people who are more willing to deal with the truth and that love is supposed to be just and fair, and you're supposed to treat other people the way you like to be treated, and I'm maybe not as caught up in these things of the world as you are, or what you like to indulge in to feel better. I kind of, high vibe energy is wanting to have a balance. Do I want some of these things of the world? Yes, but I'm not willing to stay and work in certain situations, jobs, friendships, and relationships that I don't think are loving and encouraging and supportive, or people who I think are backstabbing or don't have my best interest at heart, kind of like me to be up in my head, don't want me to be more creative, inspired, don't want me to be more independent, might not like me even loving myself, who want me to not align with being more balanced within myself in truth and love, who want me to operate more from my ego or my fear or my insecurity or my lust or my greed or my codependency. That's not kind of the soil I want to plant my life in. I want a more creative, inspired, balanced relationship. And so sometimes when we get in these more mismatched relationships, if, high vibe energy is being, again, treating other people the way you like to be treated, being more just and fair, being more inspired to be just and fair, and maybe more authentically yourself and more loving instead of operating from your defensive or egoic nature, or being more about yourself, or bossy or controlling or manipulative. And shadowy energy can be where it is kind of more trying to manipulate people to get them to do what you want in a relationship. And some people could have done some hurtful and unkind things trying to control and manipulate people. And some people are doing it right now. And some people that are in their life feel kind of left out in the cold, and they're in a mental prison because they put work and effort into trying to move this relationship forward. But they could see that they're kind of more motivated to move forward more in truth and love, high vibe Gemini, and the other people not so much. And they might want to keep staying in it, but it's like, and that's when it's kind of like, your idea of what you think is just and fair, and my idea of what I think is just and fair is different. What you want to keep investing your time, energy, and effort into, and what drives and motivates you, and kind of realizing doesn't drive and motivate me as much in that regard as you. And I am kind of ready to move forward in life a little differently. Because if we keep repeating an old pattern over and over and over, it does lose in the Five of Pentacles. When we could have started out in something, it was brand new in the Ace of Pentacles and was like, oh my gosh, this is great. I'm 18 years old, or I got a new job, or I got a new friendship, or I got in a new relationship. But if over time we're not like growing and healing and maturing ourselves, we're kind of staying in stagnant energy. And sometimes we kind of learned everything we were meant to learn from that phase of life. And it is time to detach. Like, who wants to keep being like a 15-year-old or an 18-year-old? And in some ways, metaphorically, some people do. I have this way of living life. I'm not inspired to live my life any differently. And other people could feel it, it's like depleting. High vibe energy would be more like continuing to go on high vibe Sagittarius, these new journeys in life, learning new things, being inspired to learn more things. And some people are like, nah, I'm not interested in that. Why would I want to do that? I'm happy here. And I want to keep doing this. And that's fine. Different strokes for different folks. If that keeps being what motivates and inspires them, then they should do that. But other people could find that nothing new grows here. It's the same old thing over and over. And that can be because some people in their fire sign energy of self, they are more motivated by themselves or these things of the world, and they don't. Why would anybody want to make their life? What else is there? you know? And other people could feel like, well, I think there is more. I think there's a higher truth or justice to aspire to than just making life about me and indulging myself or about my ego or my image or me. I think it is about maybe inspiring other people to love and believe in themselves. And some people are quite shadowy nature of ego can be where people are quite competitive. Why would I want to be loving and encouraging to anyone else? I kind of like it to be more about me. Well, the only thing is you can't do everything in the world. And why not be loving and encouraging to other people? You're a nurse, you're a teacher, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're an accountant, you're whatever you are. How about it doesn't have to be just about you, but some people are just more about themselves. And they don't want to really be loving and encouraging to people because that is like the competition in shadowy energy. I want people to make it more about me if some people are more egotistical or narcissistic, right? And then they don't want things to change. They like it being more about them, more about these things. And other people are like, oh my God, I can't keep living my life like this. So I think there's some more worldly, shadowy people that have had some more high vibe people in their life leave their life. They're trying to hide why those people left and why they didn't move forward with those people because they don't want people to know that they think it's just and fair to make their life more about themselves for these things of the world. Because if other people knew that that's really more what drove and motivated them, other people would kind of be up in their head about maybe getting in a relationship with them. So they hide the fact that they're not more aligned with their more hopeful, believing, loving nature and being more balanced. And then they try to go out in the world and try to present themselves as being a more high vibrational person. And then people get in a relationship with them, and it can kind of depend on if those people have learned to listen to their intuition or not, or because of their own situations in their life and the Ten of Swords that didn't work out, and they have these things they want to manifest in the world that, they're kind of a little more tempted in their more worldly nature to keep investing in some people in their life, even though their intuition could be telling them, this isn't a right mix or whatever, but, we think, oh no, I'm sure I can make this work. I'm sure they'll change. I'm sure they'll grow up. I'm sure they'll get out of their immature nature, their defensive nature, their more ego nature, bossy or controlling nature. And we're kind of, the truth sets us free. And sometimes we got in some of those situations and we didn't want to see the truth because we were hoping that if you're more motivated and inspired by love, you could think everybody's motivated and inspired by love. But in a world of free will, the truth is some people aren't. And they don't want to do it. We're emotionally complex human beings, and some people just find it too confusing. It's like, I think I'll enjoy indulging myself in a relationship with people, but I don't want to be in a more deep, meaningful relationship because then I'd have to connect more in with my emotions and we can have all these conflicting and contradictory feelings towards people. I just don't want to do it. I would rather kind of be enjoy myself in relationships, but I don't really want to maybe get out of it my more self-protective or self-defensive nature. I don't want to be hurt. This is my idea of how I won't get hurt. And will it maybe be a little more of a superficial relationship, a little more transactional relationship, won't be as abundant as it life and relationship that I could have if I was more willing to connect in with my more emotionally hopeful, believing nature. Sure, but some of those people, had the free will and they said, nope, I'm not going to do that. And I'm okay with having less of that in my life so long as maybe I have status, image, social clout, power, have someone to be in a relationship with. I'm good. And other people weren't willing to settle for that. And some people right now are working through that because they feel heartbroken. They would like to be in the relationship. They would like the job or the relationship to move forward. But their intuition is telling them that things aren't going to change and we can't change other people. They have their truth. They have their way of viewing life. They have their way of feeling stable and balanced within themselves, and they're kind of standing up for their truth. And if we want different, it might require us to leave certain jobs, friendships, and relationships, even though we have some fear of detaching, because there can be maybe a lot of things about this that seem just and fair, that maybe has some of the status and the ego and the image, and it looks like we have justice in the world. But I can't keep staying somewhere where I feel like it's just not abundant in creativity and imagination, being inspired by love. And so some people do decide to detach, and some people already did. Some people are still up in their head about it. And with the Tower reverse, it's kind of like, I'm not going to let go of aligning with my more hopeful, believing nature. If some people did and they were willing to detach from that way of living their life, I'm not. And I'm not willing to give up my dreams. I just see who I need to let go of. And the Tower card can talk about the foundation that we build our life upon. And high vibe people, it's love that builds a solid foundation. And other people could think, no, it doesn't have to be love. It can look like love. It can act like love. It can quack like love. And if it has a status and image and social clout or things we indulge in, that's good enough. And some people are like, that's not my truth. And the Tower talks about seeing the truth of the foundation that people operate from. And people realized, I have to let go of some people because I feel that they're more aligned with, they're more worldly, egoic, or immature, or more about themselves, or not love. And I can't do that. So instead of giving up my dreams, I'm just going to see the jobs, friendships, or relationships I need to let go of. And then we have the Nine of Pentacles of being more independent and to become independent of your own shadow nature that wants to manipulate you and wants to be in the driver's seat of your life, and wants you to go along with your more shadowy, backstabbing, materialistic, egoic, lack mentality, egoic nature. And you're like, no, you're not going to be in the driver's seat of my life. And the people in my life who wanted me to be in that energy, because that's more their energy to some degree, I'm going to become independent of them. And I'm going to become independent, and I'm going to offer love to myself in High Vibe Gemini, to love and believe in myself. And then in the Eight of Cups, we walk away from the Seven of Cups, which is Scorpio energy, which is more fixed sign energy, that I put work and effort into something. I wanted something to work. But I'm going to, in my Pisces energy, offer myself that cup of love, to see through the emotional confusion and the illusion of it, to go on this journey. And then the Eight of Cups is going to the Nine of Cups, which is also being more independent. And so as some people are moving forward in life, going on this new adventure with other people in their life who are willing to move forward with them in that way, shadowy energy can be where people kind of try to create an illusion that they're more independent, that they're more emotionally stable or whatever. But again, they could have decided that the way to get over some past pain and heartbreak, or get the justice they want in the world, was to invest in this idea of either trying to control other people, not do love, make their life more about these things of the world. And other people are like, I could keep doing that too, but until I change, and the Emperor's Aries energy about the self, until I see the truth that I need to change, nothing's going to change. Because I can go get a different job, I can go get in a different relationship, I can go get in a different friendship. But if I haven't worked through my past pain and heartbreak, and how I sabotage myself, and how I get up in my head, and how I don't love myself, and my fears and my insecurities, I'm going to be the same person moving forward in the next job, friendship, or relationship. I might just be trying to cover it up differently, right? And high vibe people realize I need to work through those things, so I'm different. If I don't want to repeat those old patterns, what made me make those choices and get in those friendships or relationships, or put up with some bullshit, or indulge poor behavior in myself or others? If I don't want to repeat that pattern, I have to be willing to deal with the truth within myself of what needs to change. And part of it could have been not appreciating your worth and value, not appreciating what you brought to the table, maybe being more codependent, looking to other people to love you or validate your worth and value, versus you loving you and validating your worth and value, giving yourself the things that you wish other people would give you. And so high vibe people really are not the same person that they were. Some more really shadowy people are going to try to create that illusion that they've become more independent of some things, that they're more independent, that they're ready to move forward in life differently. But they're the same person they were in the last job, friendship, or relationship, and they're just trying to find someone else again who's more on the same page as them. But you shouldn't try to create the illusion, if, be your authentic self. If you're more about yourself, or more about the world, or more about, but try to create the illusion that you're something you're not, eventually other people are going to see through the illusion. And that's shadowy Pisces energy. Trying to emotionally confuse people about the truth of who you are, trying to emotionally manipulate people, manipulate their loving nature, or their hopeful and believing nature, and eventually other people kind of see through it, right? So, shadowy energy can be where people are trying to create an illusion that I'm just like that. and try to create the illusion. Since that's how some people view life, that everybody's just creating an illusion. Everybody really is more about themselves. Everybody wants to be in these relationships for the reasons why they want to be in a relationship, because that's how they view life. And just like it's hard for loving people to understand people who think like this, they have a hard time understanding people who align with their more loving, hopeful, believing nature. And they think you just create an illusion, that you're really, operating really from heartbreak, and that you're just more about yourself and you're more just about these things of the world, just like they are. And what they don't understand is that you've kind of worked through harnessing these energies in a more shadowy way so that you don't repeat this pattern. You really are not the same person you used to be. You don't view yourself the same way. You don't view relationships the way you used to. You don't view the world the way you used to. Ways of people being and acting and behaving, and you acting and thinking and behaving. You don't view it that way anymore. It's kind of like, again, the way we lived and viewed life and thought about ourselves and viewed the world and viewed relationships when we were 15 or 18 or 21. Not everybody keeps viewing life that way. They kind of see that that was kind of a phase of life that was just and fair for me to be in it, because that's where I was at. But then there comes a time where, I need to kind of grow up and put away my more childish ways of being, right? And face my fears and get out of my head and quit thinking, deal with some of these issues. So, what some of the high vibe people have dealt with: the Ace of Wands, the Nine of Wands, the Magician, and the Lovers. Well, I just think in our more worldly nature of self, for the first 30, 40 years of our life, for one, we're really caught up in the world. We're really motivated and inspired by the world. There's all these things we want to go invest in and go indulge in because we're sure those things will make us happy. And we also may be really in the Magician card and the Lover's card, which is also Gemini energy. And the Magician is also Virgo energy, like the Knight of Pentacles, and kind of I view that as Ace of Pentacles. In our more worldly nature, we were in more codependent energy. We were more motivated by these things of the world. But we kind of go make our life about those things, and then we can kind of feel like there's a lot of things about that can feel more like we're conforming to the world and not really in high vibe fire sign energy of the Ace of Wands, the Nine of Wands, and the Knight of Wands, kind of living our more authentic life, because so much about the world in Taurus energy, people in our life, people in our family, how we grew up, our community, our state, our country, and the time period that we grow up in life, can all be trying to tell us that we should live our life like this and you should act like this. And oh my gosh, it was an uproar when people wore miniskirts. I mean, it was an uproar when the Beatles became famous and Elvis became famous. They were the devil. Are we going to live our more authentic life, and other people in the world could be like, oh my gosh, that's awful, and oh my gosh, you shouldn't act like that, and oh my gosh, you shouldn't dress like that, and oh my gosh, you shouldn't listen to that kind of music, where it's like, you had your frame of life, and you had your ways of living life, and you had your free will, and you maybe didn't live your more authentic life. And I can kind of see where these things feel, because shadowy energy, kind of represented the devil at the big picture, can be all these things that try to limit us and oppress us and imprison us. And high vibe energy is about giving birth to new things, not repeating old patterns over and over and over. And some people are really fearful of being more authentically themselves, or creating their own new thing, that they kind of want to follow the example that other people have led, and for those people it might have been the right decision for them and it might have worked out very well for them. But for people who aren't willing to listen to their own intuition and kind of go with the flow of life, it can be people that are kind of trying to live in a time warp. No, you should look like this and you should act like this, and this is what my mom and dad did, and I'm going to do this and you should do that, and I'm going to act like this and you should act like that. And because they're afraid of creating their own thing. Let's do this. I was like, and then they get in relationships with people. It's like, well, I thought we were going to create our own thing. Oh no, I find that scary. We should just do this. And it's like, that's shadowy Taurus energy, like following a template, like a paint by numbers. It's like, I want to create my own thing. And they're like, oh no, I don't want to create my own thing. That would mean in my fire sign energy, instead of being more motivated by the past or me or the world, I'd have to have some hope and faith and belief that I can create my own thing. And some people lack that hope and faith and belief in themselves. So there was things people were inspired by, and the Nine of Wands can talk about kind of being defensive to loving and believing in yourself and believing you have the unique talent, skills, interest, creativity. You kind of have to align with your more hopeful, believing nature and believe that you have more to work with than just these things of the world. And I think high vibe energy, the big picture represented by God, is that God wants to give birth to new things. If we'd all been repeating old patterns, we'd all still be cave people today. So if we're going to give birth to something new, everybody has to work through seeing what worked, seeing what didn't, seeing where we need to grow and heal and mature. We all have our own unique talent, skills, and interest. Invest in your unique talent, skills, and interest. And then it's like believing that God will work with you. Life force energy that exists in the universe. Shadowy energy can be like death force energy in the world. Will work with you to try to work with you to manifest that into reality that will provide you stability and security. But where it's balanced, you might not have all the image, all the status, all the social clout, all the money, have it all about you, but you're working together with other people that are more independent, more loving, more encouraging, more supportive, kind of in that frame of viewing life. And so the high vibe people had to work through their defensiveness of investing in their more high vibrational Gemini energy and Pisces energy, of having hope and faith and belief in themselves and in their dreams and in love. And now, once they work through that, now they're inspired to stand up for themselves and defend their more hopeful, believing, loving nature. And maybe before, again, they didn't really appreciate what they kind of brought to the table. I might not have all these things of the world. I might not have a certain status or image or whatever, but I'm loving, I'm insightful, I'm stable, I'm grounded, I'm loving, I'm not more bossy or controlling or manipulative or prideful or egotistical or immature. I've grown up. I've become more independent. I don't let the past and people in my life and the world get me all up in my head. I'm a more independent, creative, inspired person in the world who wants to go on this adventure. And then the Knight of Wands can be about communicating with people. And as you move forward, this is the Nine of Wands, but from the one wand to the Nine of Wands is the Eight of Wands moving forward. I'm moving forward in life, offering people truth and love and encouragement to move forward with me in this energy. And there could be some people that I was hoping would move forward with me in this way. But in kind of my Gemini and my Virgo energy, I have to be willing to deal with the truth. And if there's some people who aren't willing to move forward with me in that way, I have to accept that some of them are moving forward in that way and that energy with other people, and get out of my defensiveness and my ego about it. And then to maybe see the truth that some people aren't ready, and maybe they weren't who I thought they were, and maybe they are more about themselves or the world or something. And I see the truth of it. I keep investing in love, and then kind of dropping the defensiveness or waiting or the burden to go have that new beginning. I trust and believe that the divine has a plan for my life. I'm going to keep working with the people who are working together with me in this way. I'm going to wish peace to the people in my life who aren't wanting to work together with me in that way. And I'm going to go on this adventure, that believing that the divine has a plan for my life. And that is part of all of this process of being independent of the past and going and having this new beginning. So tell us what's coming up for people who harness some high by Pisces energy that they might not see coming up. The Four of Swords, the Knight of Pentacles, the Queen of Wands, and the reason is because of the High Priestess. So, the feminine figures, if I didn't mention it already, talk about how we think and feel. The masculine energies can talk about how action that we're taking in the world and how we're presenting ourselves. But because some people were willing to connect in with like their higher self, instead of their more egoic or fearful or prideful or immature nature. And the High Priestess is like Cancer and Pisces energy, two water sign energies of being inspired by love, loving yourself, offering love to others. Because of that, you were able to heal in the Four of Swords and get more balance within yourself. The Four of Swords is Libra energy, represented by the scales of justice. You were able to heal from some of those past pain and heartbreaks and self-limiting beliefs. And because you were willing to do that and were inspired, you know, in the Four of Swords, there's been pain, heartbreak, confusion, maybe about what we think is just and fair, but we meditate on the truth of it to work through the confusion, and we come out with the truth. And the truth is, people who are more inspired by love and to be just and fair invest in love and being just and fair. And some people aren't doing that. And you see the truth of it. So you're going to listen. I view the Queen of Wands as loving and believing in yourself and listening to your intuition to give yourself the things that you wish other people would have given you and to keep moving forward. And then I think as you move forward in that energy, there's other people who see that, you know, the truth, that you are independent of some issues of the past and you're more shadowy nature, that you've grown and matured yourself, that high vibe Leo of the Queen of Wands, that you're being authentic and honest and you are who you say you are. You're not trying to confuse people about the truth of you. You're not trying to manipulate people, and other people listen to their intuition. And some of the people that are currently in your life, some people in your life who you might have communicated with, but you're moving forward with or without people in this energy. If that's their truth and they want, but they have to bring it into reality in the Pentacle. They have to communicate their truth. And as you're moving forward, there's always going to be more shadowy people who think it would be just and fair to be in a relationship with you, but they might just want to offer you these things of the world. They think that's a good idea. And what they don't realize is you're not in your more defensive nature, operating from ego. You've been illuminated to the truth. And If I get in relationships with people who are offering more things of the world, that's because that's what more drives and motivates them, and is trying to tempt me by those things of the world. And High Vibe Virgo is about offering people the truth. And High Vibe Libra, being just and fair, seeing the truth. If you're going to be in relationships with people, you should be authentic. You should be balanced within yourself. You should invest in the truth, being authentic, treating other people the way you like to be treated. And there's definitely people in the world like, no, I don't want to move forward like that. I don't want to be more just and fair. I don't want to get out from behind my ego and be more authentic. That could make me vulnerable. Well, until they get more balanced within themselves and learn some more life lessons, they're going to keep viewing life like that. And they're going to keep investing in their ego and probably getting in relationships with other people who are maybe more invested from their ego nature. And it's like, I don't want to keep moving forward in a relationship like that. I want to be in relationships with people who are more balanced within themselves, more independent of their egoic nature, or being more about themselves, to be more authentic and loving. That's how you build a stable foundation, is being truthful and authentic and loving. And I think because of that, there's going to be other people who see the truth of it, who are going to want to invest in you. And you probably currently have other people in the world who work together with you in that way, because that's the truth of who they are. And you're going on this new adventure because you did learn the lesson that you were meant to learn from a certain phase of life or life experience. Some other people could be in a mental prison because you did see the truth. You did work through your pain, your heartbreak, your fears, your illusions, and you're moving forward. And some of those people could feel a little left out in the cold, but they're in a mental prison about becoming more independent of whatever it is that manipulates them. So they might go try to get in a relationship with someone else, hiding that they're still more defensive to manifesting from love. And the same problem could happen again in the next relationship they get in, or tempering their ego, or being bossy, or being controlling, or being manipulative. And the next people they try to work with at a job or in a friendship or relationship, eventually those people will go through this same process, and those people will probably move on. And so some of the shadowy people can really be irritated. They don't want to do this inner work to work through what manipulates them, and they get irritated that other people do. Why can't people just be happy making their life about these things? Just ignore your past pain and heartbreak and your self-limiting beliefs or your lack mentality. Let's go make our life about these things. It'll make us feel better. And for them, it maybe is enough. But for other people, just making their life about those things or indulging in those things, it's not enough. It has to be more than just about those things. And other people are like, well, that might be your truth. That's not my truth. I'm going to keep doing this. So, what's coming up for some people who might harness a more worldly, shadowy Pisces energy? We have two cards not showing themselves. And the reason they came out is because of the Six of Pentacles, which is also Taurus energy. A more shadowy Taurus relationship versus a more high vibrational Taurus relationship where you really are who you say you are and you kind of walk the talk and you act with character and integrity, is a more transactional relationship. Where again, people could be hiding the fact that they move forward in non-life-giving energy because they're more motivated and inspired by to keep letting whatever manipulates them manipulate them. Their fear, their insecurity, their lust, their greed, their immature nature, their self-indulgent nature, their egoic nature. And they don't want to put an end to that. And other people in their life did put an end to aligning with their more shadowy energy. And they're always going to have more high vibrational people in their life who are also going to quit moving forward with them because these people are in more shadowy energy. It's more about shadowy energy represented by the devil. It's more about them, more about the world, more about what they view as victorious and successful is different than what other people view as victorious and successful in a more high vibrational Capricorn energy. High vibe Capricorn, I view as represented by the King of Pentacles, where you really are who you say you are, and you are an emotionally mature, loving, nurturing person. You're balanced within yourself. You have stability and security, but you also have loving and nurturing people in your life. And, enough is enough. I don't need all the attention. I don't need it to be all about me. I don't need all the money. I don't need all the status. I don't need all the image. I want to move forward, being able to live my authentic life, having stability and security in my life, with loving and nurturing and encouraging and authentic people in my life. And for some people, it's like, well, that's not enough. I need more. And that's where shadowy energy is kind of like the devil gets a hold of you, and just like people get caught up in addiction, some people get caught up in, I need it to be more about me. I need more power. I need more people to view me a certain way. I need more image, more status, more money, more social clout. Because they're sure if they maybe have all that stuff that they'll be happy. And I think eventually they're going to feel left out in the cold, because the Six of Pentacles can be about giving up one foundation for another foundation. And because they didn't maintain balance within themselves, because in the Ten of Swords, it's like, nope, I'm not doing that. I could get hurt doing that. It would require me to deal with the truth of myself, deal with my own lack mentality. Why do I make these things in the world so important? Why do I make my image or my ego or how much money I have or what I wear, blah, 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 define my worth and value? They might not want to see the truth of any of that. And they also might not want to just live their more authentic life. And some people exchanged aligning with their more hopeful, believing, loving nature and people in their life that were more hopeful, believing, and loving, because they didn't want to put an end to their more worldly way of living life and this more transactional view of life. I have these things of the world. You have your things of the world. We should get in a relationship. That makes logical, practical sense. But then it can either be where they think if they seem to have more of those things of the world that people want, then people should indulge them in a relationship. And they don't really care if those people feel left out in the cold or up in their head. And they could think, well, I would also be willing. That's the way life is. And they think they would also be willing to indulge people in a relationship for those things. But some of those people might have tried that. And then they realize that there could have been someone that they wanted to be in a relationship with in order to have those things, because that could be things that they really fear not having. So they have some lack mentality and lack of hope and faith and belief in themselves. But when we kind of go down planting bad seeds and making decisions not out of truth and love, but more out of our fear and our insecurity and our codependency and our lust and our greed, they could be hiding that some of the people they thought were on the same page as them, some of those people, again, well, there's someone else who has more status and ego and image or more fear and insecurity and more willing to indulge me. And, are people who are kind of prideful have a problem with putting an end to their kind of shadowy behaviors and getting more balance within themselves. And some people could think, well, if people are in a relationship with me, because I might have this certain status or image in the world, they should be willing to change. But they're not willing to change. And then they could get in a relationship with people thinking, oh, well, that person would be willing to change. It's like, no, you kind of got in a relationship with someone who's like yourself, and they're not willing to change either. And if they're more driven by ego and image and money and materialism, if someone else comes along who requires less of them, doesn't require them to heal or grow or mature themselves, temper their ego nature or their bossy nature or whatever, well, then they'll go get in a relationship with that person because it wasn't love anyway. It was like, yeah, I'll exchange resources with you in a relationship so long as it works for me, so long as it seems to, but and the high vibe people get out of their more codependent, fearful nature or past pain and heartbreak, and they move on. And the shadowy people in their life either move on too for their own reasons, or they end up moving forward with someone who kind of is driven and motivated to stay in a relationship with them, but they could be hiding that it's an emotionally shallow and kind of more driven by the world than love. But of course, they don't want people to see the truth of that, so it's to try to create this illusion, that their life is like other people's life, but it is for some, it's a more transactional relationship. And some just want to get in a relationship because they have fear of being independent, so they just want to get in a relationship to put an end to some of their fears because it helps them feel more stable and grounded just being in a relationship. Well, again, it could be just everybody's on their journey. We can all have been there to some degree. But some people stay in that energy and they don't want to work through why they have so much fear of being more independent, of kind of getting to know themselves, learning to love themselves, being more balanced within themselves, exploring things in the world that maybe they find creative and inspired. And they could get in relationships even with people that they don't want to be in relationships with, just out of this fear of being single, or could feel like being in a relationship says something about their worth and value or their status or something. But some people could be hiding that they feel the people they're in a relationship with are kind of toxic, but they're going to stay in the relationship because they have fear of being more independent. Well, until we work through our fears and insecurities, those things will probably get worse and worse with time. If we're in relationships with people who are more fearful or controlling or hurtful or unkind, they do it for a reason, and it'll probably get worse over time. And until people are willing to say, this is not a stable and secure foundation, and work through their fears of becoming independent of it, they'll stay in it. And everybody's got to listen to their own intuition about when they're ready, and some people will put up with a lot more bullshit than other people will, right? And we've all got our own unique circumstances that we have to make those decisions. Kind of being harsh and critical is more to the people who try to take advantage of people to kind of use their fear, use their love, use their want for this to work out, to try to manipulate and control people. So, there you go, Pisces. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.